everybody, welcome back to the shop. Thank you for joining me again this week. Last week, if you remember, we talked a lot about stems and stem making, and I guided you through the process of making one. And the time was compressed, but I think you got a pretty good picture of what it takes to make a high-end stem, and I'm sure you could replicate the process at home now with all that hands-on experience. And the reason we did that last week, and we kind of got the whole experience into 5 minutes or thereabouts, is so that we could talk a little bit more about the less physical part of it and the choosing of the lengths of stem and kind of the theory behind slots and that kind of thing. So when we're talking about choosing the length, a lot of things are at play here. The proportions of the pipe and the stem need to play into each other. So assuming that you have a well-made pipe without a stem, and you go and choose the rod of ebonite that's appropriate for that pipe, the diameter, and you hold it up and you say, that's about right, and you stop with your thumb. Why did you stop there? Why there? Well, there's a few rules that I've come to apply to my work. And that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone applies this to their work or that there's some underlying truth here. But for me and the pipes and the style of pipes that I like to make, I have a few rules. The first is shorter is better. If you're ever in doubt about the length of the stem, it's too long, generally. The other thing is saddles are better. I don't generally enjoy pipes with a taper. Visually, I don't enjoy the taper. It's difficult to pull it off correctly. And a saddle will almost always give you a better visual balance on the pipe. If this was a taper, there would be too much visual weight here in the tail, and it would kind of, if you envision the pipe as something that's supposed to move, it kind of drags down the tail, and it's not balanced. So saddles kind of take away that visual weight at the back end of the pipe, I think. This is all just theory, and I've thought about this stuff a lot consciously up front when I learned it, and it sort of receded into the background as it became muscle memory, so I don't really think about this stuff consciously when I'm making a stem. But it's just some rules that I've noticed that appear now that I've practiced. Another rule is that it should mirror something. So oftentimes, and this, you can apply this retroactively, and if you're looking for a way to test different stem lengths, a great way is to measure the height of the bowl and see what that looks like. Measure the length of the shank and see what that looks like, and mirror something. Or maybe it's to the middle, that inflection point at the middle of the bowl and the middle of the shank, right there at the center. Maybe that's the right length. For this particular pipe, the shank and the stem are the same length, the height of the bowl and the stem are the same length, and the distance between the back of the saddle here, the back of the saddle here to the end is the same length as the height of the back of the bowl above the shank. And it doesn't always work out perfectly like that, but generally most well-proportioned stems mirror something. So here's a little blowfish, and you'll notice that it's about a third, a third, a third. The stem is the same length as the shank and the same length as the bowl front to back. And because this is a complicated pipe, that's about where the association ends. There's not a lot of other ways to measure it. I'm sure you could, but I find that as long as it's mirroring something, you generally get the right proportions. You get that shorter length that you're looking for, and a lot of times you can mirror something else with the width of the saddle or the width of the stem behind the saddle or something like that. So you can get a lot of relationships going on, and the more relationships there are between different parts of the pipe that you're pulling together, it usually works out better. It's not a rule, it's just something that you start to notice after a little while. Another topic that I wanted to kind of dive into on the back of last week's video is sluts. Somebody had asked me why there's this kind of focus and fascination among artisan pipe makers with getting the slot just perfect. And I think in a lot of ways it's mostly just gilding the lily, because when you go back and look at a lot of the old valuable English pipes, such as Barling, pre-transition stuff, the old Dunhills, the old Camoys, and so on, they had really nice thin buttons. They had funneled airways, very comfortable stems. And we're really not doing anything different than that. So there was probably a guy in the Dunhill factory whose job it was to make nice thin stems and open up the slot. And we really haven't gone farther than that, except for making sure that it's really polished, or just the really fine details about not having any sharp lips here to discomfort your mouth. But one of the big reasons is that this is the part you put in your mouth. That's the part you have the most intimate contact with. And so that's the part that you're going to really judge the pipe by. That's the part that's going to be the most close to your experience. Like, this is the one that most dramatically influences the kind of smoke you get, because of the way it opens up and the smoke expands because of the widening of the slot and the comfort in the teeth and the way it hangs and the thinness of it, and all of that stuff add up to your experience when you're smoking. And that's the reason why a lot of high-end pipe makers focus on the bit, the slot, and the button, and all just this area here, this last inch, as Tom Elting says. So I hope this has been helpful. It might be a little esoteric and metaphysical or something, but there's really no way to measure this kind of stuff and there's no platonic ideal out there of there's no perfect pipe out there that has these proportions, and if you do those proportions, your pipe will be perfect. There is no perfect pipe. So you have to come up with these little rules of thumb that help you along the way to achieving the perfect pipe that you can make today. And that's always what I'm after, is what's the best pipe I can make now, and then tomorrow I'll make a better one. If you'd like to see more of my work, please go to Facebook or Instagram at symbol Jared Cole. Oh, damn it. Jared Cole's Pipes. And YouTube, you can subscribe here. It's just Jared Cole's. I recently put up a lot of my work from last year, 2016, onto the Facebook page, Jared Cole's Pipes. So if you want to see, it's kind of a comprehensive overview of what I did this last year. And so you can kind of see my journey and kind of where I am since J&J and all of that. So please go take a look and let me know what you think. Thank you very much. Have a good one.